Hello everybody. In this tutorial, we're going to go through an introduction to the Linux terminal. So OpenFOAM is run through Linux, so you need to have a basic understanding of the Linux terminal. Also, this is useful if you're going to be using high-performance computing systems, supercomputers, because supercomputers typically run on Linux operating systems. So even if you want to run Abacus or ANSYS or COMSOL or other similar commercial softwares, you typically will have to submit their jobs through a Linux terminal if you want to use a supercomputer. Okay, so I'm going to do all of this through Windows, but if you actually, if you have a native installation of Linux, you can just open up a terminal in Linux. And actually, Macs are built on Unix, which is what Linux is based off. So Macs actually have a terminal that all these commands work in as well. So start by looking for Ubuntu that you will have installed. So we don't need an OpenFOAM yet, we just need an Ubuntu terminal. But open up your Ubuntu terminal. Great. I'm going to put this on half the screen. Let me just see if I can make my font maybe a little bit larger here as well. It's a little bit small. Okay, so very good. Okay, so the first command to learn in Linux terminal is pwd. So if you type pwd and press enter, that's print working directory. So that's telling us the address we're at. So if we look at the output from that command, so if I write pwd, press enter, do it again, and the output of the command is /home/phillipc. So the very / the first / is called the root, or the root of the computer. So think a little bit like a tree, so tree structure. So it's basically the root is the directory or the folder which all of the Linux computer is stored in. So at the root, and inside the root directory, there is a directory called home. So we're inside that directory, and inside the home directory, there is a directory called phillipc, and that's where we're located. So we're in a directory called phillipc. That's a subdirectory of a directory called home, and that's at the root of the computer. Typically in Linux, instead of calling them folders, they call them directories, but they're basically the same thing. Okay, so that's useful. If we're at the terminal and we just press enter and nothing happens, it just goes to the next line. So if you just want to make some more space, you can just press enter. And what do we want to do next? Well, one, it's useful to know that if you press up on your keyboard, up or down, you can scroll back through the history of all the commands you've typed. So if you're looking for a command you previously typed, you just press up, find it, and press enter. The next command we're going to learn is ls. So ls is the list. So if we want to see what files and folders are in the current directory, you just type ls, press enter. So inside my home directory, I've got two folders. One's called OpenFOAM. So when I installed OpenFOAM, this was created. And another one is called software. So this is just some other extra software I have. So if you haven't installed OpenFOAM, you won't have, you may not have any directories here. There just might be no output, which is fine as well. So you just may have nothing. There will, however, be a number of hidden files in this home folder that ls doesn't show. So most Linux commands have options as well. So if I go ls - or -al, that's basically show all files, even if they're hidden. So if I do that, it shows far more details. So it'll show all of these things on the right are the files. So the blue ones are folders. So you can see OpenFOAM and software I have. But then everything that starts with a dot is a hidden file or hidden folder in Linux. So you can see some hidden folders and these other hidden files here, and they're to do with configuration settings. So we don't really have to worry about that so much. And what's useful if you're just getting used to using a terminal environment is maybe to see what this directory looks like in a graphic window as well. So if you're using this Windows subsystem, they conveniently Windows install a command called explorer.exe. So explorer.exe is a Windows program that they've installed into this Ubuntu when I was installing it, just to connect the Windows with the Linux. So if you go explorer.exe space dot, then it's going to open up a Windows Explorer window, and then space dot dot in Linux means the current folder. So it means open up the current folder. If we press enter, and that's what it's done here. So you can see basically root here is Ubuntu, and then home and Philips C. So the Linux computer is installed somewhere on your Windows. So you can see it's basically showing all the same things. We've our OpenFOAM software and we've all these hidden files. So by default, files starting with dot in Windows aren't hidden. So that's why it's showing all of them. Okay. You can follow along in here, or I'm going to close it. If you're using a native installation of Linux, you can open a file browser like Nautilus. If you type Nautilus dot, it'll open it up. And if you're on Mac, if you type open space dot, it'll open up the current folder as well. Okay, what are we going to do? Let's make a directory. We'll make some files inside that directory. We'll copy the files around or move them around, make changes to them, copy the directory, delete some of them, and just learn how to do that. And that's pretty much all you need to do to be able to run OpenFOAM jobs and edit boundary conditions and material models and time steps in OpenFOAM and start jobs. And then similarly, if you're using a supercomputer system, if you have to navigate around, copy your ANSYS or Abacus models and submit them, these are basically the basic commands you'll need. Okay, so let's make a new directory. So I'm going to make a new directory called my stuff. So there's the command make dir, which is to make a directory, and then I leave a space and write my stuff 1, because I'm going to make multiple folders. So if I press enter, it made a new directory. So if I type ls now, you'll see I have a new directory called my stuff 1. So I may want to make some files inside that now. So I want to navigate inside that folder. And so the next step is I'm going to use this cd command. So cd is change directory. So if I want to change directory into my stuff, I go cd space my stuff 1, press enter. Now if I write print working directory, you can see now my address has changed into the my stuff 1 directory inside Philips C, inside home. And if I type ls, there's nothing inside this directory. I could also, if you're on Windows, then you can go explorer dot, and you can see that we're inside this directory and there's nothing inside it. One thing, the next thing is maybe if I want to go back out of this folder, and if I go cd space dot dot, so in Linux, dot dot means the parent directory, and the parent directory is the directory one above your current directory. So if we're inside my stuff, the parent directory is Philips C. If we're inside Philips C, its parent directory is home. So if I go cd dot dot, that means move back up one directory in the tree. So if I go cd dot dot and then write pwd, you can see I'm back in the home directory. If I go cd dot dot again, now I'm in this home directory. If I ls in that home directory, you can see there's just a folder called Philips C. If I cd up one more, print working directory, now I'm at the root of the computer. If I type ls, you can see our home directory, and then there's a bunch of other directories, and this is basically the Linux installation, is the rest of those folders. And some other shortcuts, if I type cd on its own, press enter, that automatically brings me back to my home directory. So the home directory is the location you are when you first open the Ubuntu, and it will be your username directory inside a home directory. If I go cd space / that means navigate to the root of the computer. So if I print working directory, now I'm back in the root. So if I cd, press enter, now I'm back in my home directory. Okay, so let's go back inside my stuff. One thing you might notice, you might think I'm able to type my stuff very fast, but I'm not. But I'm using autocomplete. So one of the keys on your keyboard that you'll use the most when you're using a Linux terminal is the tab key. So tab should be just above cap locks on your keyboard. So just to the left of your Q key, probably. So if you tap tab, it will try autocomplete whatever you're typing. So if I type CD, over here, CD, and type M. So I'm trying to CD into something that starts with M. So if you check what folders are existing in the current folder, you can see I have one called OpenFOAM, one called My Stuff 1, and one called Software. So only one of them starts with M. So if I press Tab now, it auto-completes because it knows there's only one directory starting with M. Then I can press Enter. So you can use this autocomplete for opening files and navigating around and things like that. So it's pretty helpful. So let's go back one cd dot dot, and now I'm going to make a new directory called my stuff2. So ls, I have my stuff1, my stuff2. So let's now go cd n and press tab. So if you see what it does is it realizes that it has to be my stuff 1 or 2, so it types my stuff, and then it leaves me to type the last one. If I want to force it to autocomplete, press tab again, does nothing, press tab again. So pressing 2 tabs, then it'll actually show me the 2 options. So then I can just say 1, press enter, and then I'm happy. So pressing tab, if you press tab and it doesn't autocomplete, press tab the second time, it'll show you what the options are. Okay, next we're going to create a file. To create a file, we need a text editor. So of course you could open explorer.exe and use your Notepad or Notepad Plus or something like that. And that's fine. You could also, that will be on your Windows, basically using Notepad on your Windows. But we can use some built-in text editors in Linux to do this. So it does have one commonly used one, which is called Vim, or there's one called Vi. So in the Linux community, 2 of the most popular text editors and some of the oldest are Vim, and the other one is Emacs. So typically people tend to use just one of those and they think it's better than the other one. So I happen to be somebody who uses Emacs, so I'm going to stick with Emacs here. But you can use whatever you want, and you can even install Notepad++ in the terminal here if that's what you like to use that. So to use Emacs, you actually have to install it. So to install Emacs, you have to type sudo apt install Emacs. So sudo means switch user do. So switch user do means switch to another user and do something. And if you don't tell it a user, it presumes you want to switch to the admin account. So to install any software, you have to do that as an admin in Linux. So the admin account in Linux is called a root account. So the root is the name of the user who has admin privileges. So if you just go sudo in front of the command, it's basically give admin privileges to this command. So if you try to delete all of your computer, Linux computer from the terminal, you'll need to put sudo in front of it. But I wouldn't do that in here. That'd be a bad idea. So then there's a program called apt. And apt is a package manager. So in Linux, most of the software, if not all the software, is free. And often people will publish the software into online repositories. So apt is one package manager that I can look up these repositories and then install software. So we actually use the app to install OpenFOAM. Apt has some options like to uninstall or to install. So you can go apt install, and then you give the name of the software you want to install, and you can Google for what softwares are available. So if you press enter, because it's sudo, it'll ask me for my password. So I'll type in my password. You can see I'm typing, but it's not showing the keys. So I did actually type, press enter, and it read my keys there. So don't the characters. So you don't see how many characters in my password. So it says this is already done because I've already installed Emacs. If I press up, try to do it again. It doesn't ask for my password because it'll only ask for a password every couple of minutes. If you try to do a couple of sudo commands in a row, it'll only ask for the password on the first one. So Emacs is installed. So now I'm going to use that to create a file. But as I said, you could use any text editor. So there's nothing in this directory. I'm going to go Emacs, and then I'm going to give the name of the file. So I'm going to go call it my file 1. I can give it an extension or not. Unlike Windows, Linux doesn't really care about extensions. So the extensions are in Windows, just let Windows know which software should be used to open the file. And also Mac does that as well. But you don't have to give an extension in Linux. So typically files are ASCII readable, which means you open them in a text editor, you can read them, or they're binary, you open them, you can't read them, and they're compressed or encrypted in some way. So I'll just go Emacs, my file. It can be my file.txt, it doesn't matter. This will be a text file, so I'm just going to call it .txt just so to let myself know it's a text file, but it doesn't matter. So then that will open up Emacs. So this is a new file, it's empty. I'm just going to say hello world, enter, this is my first file in Linux. Okay, then I'm going to go down a few lines and go end. So Emacs is a little bit strange, the commands to get used to it, but you only need to know a few of them. So one is how do you save the file, and the next one is how do you close the file. So to save the file, if you hold on the control key on your keyboard and then press X, and then still holding on the control key after releasing X, then press S. So down here it says it's wrote the file and you see the full address. So just to repeat that, I hold control and then I press X, then I press S. So all the time holding control. So many of the Emacs commands are like that, where you hold control and then you press a sequence of letters. So that's to save it. Then to close the file, I hold control and press X and then C. And so, I didn't do that right there. So if I hold X or hold control and press X and C, and it'll close the file. So if I press up, just open that file again, you can see it's all there now. So I can go hold control, X, still holding control, press C. So you can see down at the bottom, if I open it again, if I hold control, press X, you can see it types CX, that's control X, and then C, you briefly saw it there, it closes. If you start typing commands and then you've kind of made a mess of the order of the commands, if you just hold control and press G, that just quits the command. So holding control and press G, that'll quit the commands. So that's our file. Let's close that. So what do we want to do with this file? Let's first of all ls. You can see we have a my file in this folder. If I go explorer.exe dot, you can see now I have a my file here. And you could open that in some sort of text editor or not. You can see here I directly set my my Windows language to be Irish. So what are we going to do next? Well, let's rename this file. So there isn't actually a rename command in Linux. Instead, there's just a move command. So if you just move a file from one location to another, well, you can just move it from one name to another. So if I go move, which is mv, then my file, type M, press tab, and then I give the second name. So I'm going to go my file 2.txt. Press enter, type ls. Now it's just renamed the file. I can open that file in Emacs. See, it's just the same file. That's great. Now let's copy a file. So the copy file is cp. So cp, my file 2. Let's tab my file 2, but go back and change it to 3, and then press up and do it again. ls. Now I've got 3 files, so I'll open my file 3. Say this is my second file. Save it. So holding control, press X, then S. Oh, press Control G here. I've messed up. So holding control, press X, then S. Then holding control, press X, then C. And I'll do the same with 4. And this is my third file. So if you start using Emacs, you can look up online shortcuts to jump around and just to make your life easier. So there's certain shortcuts you can jump to the top of a file, or jump to the bottom of a file, or if you're on a line, jump to the end of the line, or jump to the start of the line, or skip a word, or search for things. So I'm not going to go through that now, but there's some easy tutorials online for Emacs. So now we've got a bunch of different files. You'll also notice that now you may have, say, my file 2, my file 3, but there's my file 3 with a squiggle after it. So Emacs by default will save backups, so previous iterations of files, just in case you mess up. You can turn that off if you want, but that's all they are. So next thing we might want is to remove a file or to delete one. So we'll do that with rm. So let's just delete these backups. So rm, I'm just going to type my file 3 and tilde, and then my file 4 tilde ls. So I got rid of those. Very good. So how about now we move back up the parent directory. So cd space dot dot. We're back in my home directory, ls. We can see we have my stuff 1 and my stuff 2. My stuff 2 is empty. ls my stuff 1, you can see has stuff in it. So you can see with the ls command, you can actually give the name of a directory in the current directory, and it will show you what's inside it. So you don't have to go inside it to ls it inside. So you can go ls my stuff 2, there's nothing in it, ls my stuff 1, there is. So what I'm going to do now is go copy the folder my stuff 1 to my stuff 3. But if I try to do that, if I press enter, it'll say cp-r not specified emitting directory my stuff. So basically what it's saying is you can't copy a directory without copying everything that's inside it. And so in short, if you want to copy a directory, you have to go -r. So cp space -r space, and then the name of the directory and the name of the directory you want to copy it to. So that R stands for recursive. So it's basically, if you imagine, if you try to copy a directory on its own without everything inside it, it doesn't make sense. So that's recursive, means copy that and then recursively copy everything that's inside it. So if we go -r, press enter, now we have my stuff 1, 2, and 3. Try ls my stuff 1 and my stuff 3. They both have the same, and my stuff 2 has nothing in it. So next, I'm going to delete my stuff 2. So if I try rm my stuff 2, it'll say cannot remove this, it's a directory. So once again, you have to go -r. So if you're copying or removing a directory, you have to go -r. So that will get rid of it. And there's also the option rf. So if I sometimes if files are read-only inside a directory, then it will stop and say it can't delete them. So -f means force. So if you want to delete something, you can directories and every file inside it, you can go -rf. So remove -rf is forcing things to be deleted. So you might see, if you ever look up like a Linux book or something, and there might be a little meme or a joke on the front of it, it might have a command, something like sudo rm-rf. So that means give admin privileges to this, and then if you press /. So don't do this unless you want to reinstall your Ubuntu, but that will actually, if you type your password, it will delete everything on the Linux computer. So it'll delete the entire operating system. And so it's good to know, don't copy and paste commands like that from the internet and run them, or be very careful running sudo. Okay, so you have my stuff 1, my stuff 2. I'm going to now just go through a few last commands. So 1, if I go back into my stuff 1, look at the files. If I want to quickly just see what's the top of a file, I can use a command called head, and there's also a command called tail. So head shows the top of a file. So if I go head my file 2, it shows the top 10 lines by default of a file, and then tail will show the bottom 10 lines. But in this case, the file is less than 10 lines long, so it's just showing you all the file. Now you can use the top 2 lines, I think, if you go -2, yeah. So if you go dash and then a number, it'll show the top how many lines you want, and you can do the same thing with tail. So tail -4 will show the last 4 lines of the file. So that can be convenient. And later on, when we're running OpenFOAM cases, if we're printing the output of a solver to a log, it can be useful to use tail to see what's the last thing being printed, and we can use tail -f to continuously look at what's being printed. Okay, next I'm going to move the my stuff 2 directory inside the my stuff 1 directory. So let me see, my stuff 3, sorry. So if I go ls -- or ... then that's looking at lsing the parent directory. So I'm just going to move. So I'm currently in my stuff 1, so I'm going to move space ... my stuff 3 and move it here. So dot means the current directory. So dot is current directory, dot is the parent directory. If I ls now, you can see all my files, and then I have my stuff 3. If I type explorer and I can tab and press space dot, you can see what it looks like. So I have Philip C, I have my stuff 1, I have these files, and then I have my stuff 3 as well. So now let's learn about the find command. So if I want to find a file of a particular name, I go find, and then I tell it where I'm searching. So dot means start searching in the current directory and all lower directories. And then I go space -name, and I'm going to look for a file called myfile2.txt. Press enter. So you can see it finds 2 files by this name. One is in the current directory, so ./ here, and then another one is in my stuff 3, my file. Another useful command is grep. So grep is kind of searching for text inside files in a directory. So I can go grep and then look for the word, with quotes, I'll look for the word Linux, because I typed that in my files. and I can tell it to look inside a file. So I'll look inside my file 2, and then you can see it finds it and highlights it red. But maybe I want to search in the entire directory and subdirectories. So if I go grep -r, so -r once again is recursive, look in this and all subsequent directories. And then star is a wildcard. So in the Linux terminal, star means just anything, any character, any file, any folder. So then what it'll do is it finds Linux in my file 2, 3, and 4, and then it also finds Linux in 2, 3, and 4 in the my stuff 3 directory. So this is useful in, for example, OpenFOAM. If you're trying to find as an example of some option you can use, you can go to the tutorial directory and grep to see if it exists anywhere, and then see how it was used. Okay, the other thing is if you're typing a command and you just want to stop, you can just hold on Control on the keyboard and press C, and then Control C is a way to kill a program, or it's the way to just kill a command and move to the next command. So that's what's typed here, Control C. So just Control C is just kill what you're doing. So if there's some process running like an OpenFOAM toggle, you can Control C to kill it. The last thing which can be useful sometimes is the stream editor. So sed is a way you can find and replace text in files without opening them. So let's say I want to replace the word first with fort. So the way I can do that in sed is I go sed space -i, so I is interactive, so it means just change the file there and then quotes, s / which means substitute, and then after the / you give what you want to replace, which is first, and then after another / I want to replace that with fort, and /g, which means global. So it's a bit strange, the format, but once you get used to it, it's easy enough. So it's just you do a substitution, look for the word first, replace it with fort, and do this everywhere in the file. So if the word first appears multiple times, then replace all of them. So I can do that in my file 2. And now if I open up my file 2, you can see that first has been replaced with fort. So if you look up online, if you're interested in sed, you can get sed to do more customized operations. So you could say search for the first entry of something and then just replace that. And using wildcards, you can replace settings in multiple files at the same time. Okay, that's everything you need to know. So we went through PWD. So let's move down. We went through PWD. We went through ls. We looked at the Explorer .exe to open up a folder. So we're going to use that to open up a case and then open it up in PowerView. We talked about how to tab. We talked about how to make a new directory, so make directory test. We learned how to open a file with Emacs. So Emacs, you can open an existing file, or if the name doesn't exist, it'll make a new file. We learned to rename files and folders. So test2 using the move command. We learned to copy files and folders. So test2 to test3. We learned to remove folders. So you can go R or RF, test star, use wildcards, delete both of them. I'm going to go remove -rf star to remove everything in the current folder. So now everything's gone. cd .. move up 1. I'm going to get rid of the my stuff 1 as well. So just clean up everything I created. We also learned about the head and tail commands to look at the top and bottom of files. And we looked at find files of a particular name in the current directory. So I look for a file called u. So you can see in OpenFOAM there's lots of u files exist. And we looked at grep to search inside files and sed to find and replace files. So in fact, find, grep, and sed aren't really required. They're a little bit more advanced. All you basically need are just the first maybe 6 commands. So that's it. I'm going to stop the tutorial there, and you're set up ready to use the terminal now with OpenFOAM.